Jakarta kayak kampung. Dengan Jakarta saja, Beijingnya kita lihat masih seperti kampung. Sekarang kebalik-balik. Pak Anies, kalau saya yakin Pak Anies sering ke China, kebalik Beijing, Shanghai, kalau kita lihat Jakarta kayak kampung dibanding dengan Shanghai.
Melampauinya bukan hanya kasus Jakarta dan Shanghai, tapi juga bagaimana Tiongkok dibandingkan dengan seluruh dunia. Lompatan 100 kali perekonomian itu dahsyat. Jadi menurut saya justru pelajaran penting yang kita ambil dari pesan yang disampaikan Pak Mendagri tadi adalah pesan tentang transformasi sebuah negara. Lebih dari soal kata kampung, jadi kan itu memang clickbait, menarik, tweetable gitu.
Kemajuan itu didorong bukan dengan membangun kota baru, tapi dengan memajukan 40 kota yang sekarang sudah ada, dinaik kelaskan sehingga mereka menjadi penggerak perekonomian di seluruh wilayah Indonesia. Jadi bukan membangun dari nol kotanya. Semarang didorong maju, oke? Kemudian Purwokerto didorong maju, Cilacap didorong maju, supaya mereka menggerakkan perekonomian yang ada di sekitarnya. Tapi bila kita tidak mendorong 40 kota ini, nah ini dia nih, ini contoh nih. Jadi 40 kota ini sebagai pusat pengetahuan, ini bukan kota-kota yang nol. Lain dengan membuat IKN itu lahan kosong dibangun kota. Kalau ini kota yang didorong kemajuannya. Jadi yang disampaikan Gus Imin itu ada dasarnya, ini loh dasarnya nih. Dengan demikian, kota-kota ini akan menjadi penggerak perekonomian di wilayahnya. Selama kita tidak mendorong kemajuan itu lewat kota-kota, kita tidak menggerakkan. Semua hasil pertanian diserap oleh kawasan urban. Hari ini 57% penduduk Indonesia tinggal di perkotaan. Di tahun 2050, 75% penduduk Indonesia tinggal di perkotaan. Bila kita tidak membangun, mengupgrade ya kota-kota kita ini, 40-an kota, maka kita akan mengalami problem yang sama seperti di Surabaya. Jadi apa yang dikatakan Gus Imin kemarin itu sahih berdasarkan studi, bukan imajinasi dan bukan selera. Itu teknokratik, ada argumennya. Makanya kami siap berdebat karena karyanya dengan gagasan.
Pak Ketua Majelis Suro yang saya hormati, di ujung utara Jakarta ada sebuah stadion yang terbangun. Namanya Jakarta International Stadium. Stadion itu memecahkan rekor dunia karena infrastruktur yang dibangun adalah salah satu infrastruktur paling rumit yang pernah dikerjakan, di mana harus mengangkat sebuah atap yang beratnya 36.000 ton, sama seperti mengangkat 24.000 mobil bersamaan. Dikerjakan dengan kompleksitas yang sangat tinggi. Bahkan program National Geographic Megastructure menempatkan ini sebagai salah satu proyek yang patut untuk jadi pelajaran bagi seluruh dunia. Dan siapa yang membangun? Semua anak-anak yang dilahirkan oleh ibu Indonesia, yang dididik di tanah Indonesia, yang bersekolah di Indonesia. Tidak menggunakan tenaga dari luar, tenaga kita. Mereka sama hebatnya. Dunia mempesona dengan hasil kerja anak-anak Indonesia.
Saya tidak pernah bertanya tentang apakah Anda memilih saya atau tidak. Sama sekali tidak pernah tanya. Ketika saya tugas di Jakarta, boleh dicek, pilih teman-teman. Tidak pernah memberikan arahan kepada jajaran, batasi ke program hanya di daerah yang dulu kita menang. Daerah yang kalah tidak sama sekali. Selesai pilkada, maka itu adalah sejarah, itu sudah menjadi keputusan. Tugas saya adalah memajukan kota Jakarta apapun pilihannya pada saat pemilu kemarin. Dan bahkan saya sering mengatakan, I'm not asking you to like me, I'm not asking you to vote for me, but I'm asking you to help Jakarta, I'm asking you to help Indonesia. Gitu. Saya tidak minta Anda untuk menyukai saya. Saya tidak minta Anda untuk memilih saya. Tapi saya meminta Anda untuk bekerja memajukan Jakarta dan memajukan Indonesia.
Allow me to reflect a moment about some of the principles that I deeply believe in. It is a principle of social justice and equality, driven from the 5 principles of Pancasila. The 5th principle, which is the most fundamental promise of Indonesians' independence, is social justice and equality, and it is the guiding star of our Pancasila. This ideology, this approach, these values has shaped every roles and every decisions I've taken throughout my career. And I'm outlining this at the beginning because I'm not speaking again as a former governor, but as someone who cares about the future of urban cities. When I served as rector of Paramadina University, I realized that beyond the campus, behind Jakarta's grand avenues, there are neighborhoods who are struggling with poverty. It's hard to accept that a place of learning would exist in an isolation from its surrounding. So we created a scholarship program specifically for children of our neighbors. We have no constitutional duty to do that. We were a private university. But with that, high school graduates in our neighbors able to go to our university at no cost. So we do hope that university could also become space for social repair. And then we look at the archipelago of Indonesia. Let's think beyond the city. It's about the deep gaps across our nations. The distance between urban centers and remote villages is not just spatial. The difference is it's about distance of opportunity. That's why we initiated a project called Indonesia Mengajar. It's a movement to send the nation's brightest university graduates to the remote area, to the most remote area of Indonesia. So sending a graduate of aeronautics from ITB to Kapuas Hulu. Let me give you illustrations going to Kapuas Hulu. 1 hour flight from Jakarta to Pontianak, 26 hours by bus to Kapuas Hulu, 5 hours by boat, and then another hour by motorcycles to reach the village. So you can go to London back and forth, and you're not there yet. Just to give you illustrations. Why that is the case, we want to ensure that we are part of those who want to make sure that the gap of opportunity can be narrowed. So I continued responsibility as served as Minister of Education, and again, we launched a project called Guru Garis Depan, a civil service initiative that placed permanent, well-supported teachers in the frontiers, in the outmost and the most disadvantaged regions in our archipelago. These teachers were not designed simply to teach, simply for being an educator, but they're designed to be community leaders in the long run, anchoring the presence of the states where it had long been struggling to fulfill. So, when I was entrusted to serve as governor in Jakarta, I brought the same compass with me, which is social justice, both as directions and also as destination. I'll speak more in a moment about how we tried to apply this principle through the tools of architecture and urban design. But let me first offer some context to many of you who may not be familiar with Jakarta. Jakarta is one of the most dense cities in the world. It is a home of over 11 million people. It has one of the highest level of inequality in Southeast Asia, with a Gini index that hover around 0.4, and nearly half of its workforce is in the informal sectors, and about 1/5 of its residents live in poverty or near poverty. Therefore, any conversations about design in a city like Jakarta must begin with these realities. But on the other hand, Jakarta is also one of the most spatially fragmented cities in the region. Wealth and infrastructures were heavily concentrated in the centers and the south, while the north and west were struggling with chronic underinvestment, especially in housing, drainage, and green space. And when we come about the gap, the top is at par with those in many modern megapolitans across the globe, but those who are below were struggling deeply. So these spatial divides mirror social ones, but they're often reinforced by our design, by our regulations. And access to public services remain uneven. While some enjoy world-class hospitals, world-class schools, many others rely on overstretched public facilities and often located far from their homes. Give you an example. More than 25% of Jakarta's residents live in a neighborhood classified by the UN Habitat Standard as slum-like, and this is 25%. Where basic infrastructures like clean water, proper sanitations, or safe sidewalks are still lacking. So these experiences, how my life journey has been, and how I view this reality of the city, shape myself, seeing the city not simply as technical object. I saw the city of Jakarta as a moral and cultural landscape. A city is not only a place to live, but also a place to belong. And in a country as vast and as diverse as Indonesia, we cannot design cities with only engineering in mind. We must design with imaginations because our geography demands that imaginations. Now, let me give you the Indonesian context here. When we talk about Indonesia, let's not begin with maps, but let's start with metaphor. Indonesia is indeed an archipelago, but not only in terms of its geography, but it is also an archipelago in terms of imaginations. Our cities are shaped not by linear logic, but by tides, ritual, oral traditions, and islands of memory. And therefore, urban design in such a place cannot follow one-size-fits-all approach. It must be humble enough to listen and bold enough to express. So today, in these great opportunities, I'd like to offer a provocations. One that may sound philosophical, but actually it is deeply practical. What if we treated cities not merely as space to occupy, but as stage to perform who we are? What if we look at cities in a different way? What if sidewalks, parks, and transit system could speak, could express values like justice, equality, belongings? Can you imagine what would it mean to design for that performance, where all the facilities were expressing those values? You know, we often talk about smart cities, green cities, sustainable cities, livable cities, but rarely we talk about cities that speaks. cities that move not just bodies, but move souls, cities that allow disagreement, cities that provide celebrations, and allow silence to coexist in their public spaces. That's the spirit of what I'd like to share with you today, the idea of performative archipelago. Now, why this matters a lot. Indonesia is not a single landmass. It is a constellation of island, culture, and rhythm of life. And each island has its own tempo, it has its own stories, and its own way of relating to space. In this archipelago, the idea of urban cannot be copied and pasted from a continental model. Our geography demands a different imagination. Each city in Indonesia is more than just a cluster of buildings. Each city is a stage, shaped by climate, shaped by history, shaped by rituals. Therefore, a city by the sea breathes differently than a city in the mountains. A marketplace in Sumatra may carry different social codes than a plaza in Sulawesi. So urbanism here must be rooted in the locals and not imposed from the top. Yet, too often, urban planning in Indonesia follows templates designed elsewhere.
Teman-teman, berjumpa bersama saya di Politik Dangi ya. Kalau kita melihat bagaimana perkataan Tito Karnavian yang mengatakan bahwa Jakarta itu kayak kampung, teman-teman. Ini kan pernyataan yang kurang baik ya. Bagaimana selama Anies Baswedan ya, kepemimpinan Pak Anies yang luar biasa mengubah Jakarta itu menjadi negara ibu kota yang sangat terkenal ya, dengan prestasi, dengan keindahan, dengan tata kelola yang baik. Dan Jakarta juga sebagai ibu kota sangat luar biasa sekali, teman-teman. Bagaimana menurut kalian?